Okay, guys, so we will begin. Hopefully that's given everybody a chance to join. So yeah, welcome to part 2 of our No More Double Entry series. Today's webinar will be on the Tenant App, tenants and maintenance issues, automations and mail merge. So basically we'll be looking at the Tenant App, the tenant side of things, how when we make changes on the property manager side of things, how that reflects on the tenant side of things and vice versa. Tenants and maintenance issues, so managing these maintenance issues once they do come over to our property manager side, how we can manage them, how we can utilize them to help us manage our portfolio. Again, automation, so how we can automate our maintenance processes. So again, utilizing Arthur to basically save ourselves as much time as possible. And mail merge, so we'll be looking at mail merging documents, common mail merge documents, how to mail merge them, and troubleshooting. I just have a few questions for you guys. If you guys could answer just by showing, by raising your hand on the Zoom. So obviously just raise your hand and then just pop it down once I've seen. So out of everyone here, yeah, you're all testing that and it seems to be working. Great. How many of you guys have tenants who will not use the app or are not using the app for whatever reason? Okay. Quite a lot of you. Okay, great. So obviously we have the Tenant App. So a few reasons why the tenant may not use the app. Firstly, they may just not want to. They may not have a smartphone, for example. Now we do have a web portal, so they don't necessarily have to have a smartphone. They don't have to have the app on their phone. They can log in on a computer if they want to, which we'll be looking at. So obviously if the tenants aren't using the app, then you'll be reflecting your maintenance issues on your Arthur manually. So obviously your tenants will be externally expressing issues to you, and then I'd imagine you guys will be creating tasks to reflect that on Arthur. So how many of you guys think that you are utilizing automated events as best as possible to help you manage your portfolio? Okay, great. So not too many of you. So again, what we'll be looking at is automating, particularly to do with maintenance issues. So again, I'll be showing you how we can create custom triggers. I'll be showing you our system triggers as well. So we can obviously create automation based off of triggers that happen in our portfolio in regards to maintenance issues. So we'll be looking at those. And again, how many of you guys are using the mail merge and how many of you guys find it easy to use? Great, yeah. So the mail merge is a super useful tool. Again, what we'll be looking at on the mail merge is we'll be looking at obviously creating a mail merge where we store our mail merge templates, obviously pulling variables over to a mail merge and then attaching it to a tenancy so that the tenancy details come over to the document. And then also we'll be looking at adding digital signatures to it and also troubleshooting. So if there is any data on it that is incorrect or just not there, we'll be looking at where we can find that in Arthur to correct the document. Great. So next page, I've just got a copyright notice. So I'm just going to leave that up for a short period of time just for you guys to have a little read. And then we will move on to the first part of our agenda, which is the Tenant App. Cool. So I'll move on from that. So the agenda today will be the Tenant App. So we'll be looking at the Tenant App, general overview of it, having a look at what the tenant can see, and again, how things reflect on the tenant side and the property manager side when we make changes on either side. Managing maintenance issues. So when a tenant does raise a maintenance issue through the app, again, how that reflects on our property manager side and how we can manage that. Automating your processes, so obviously identifying our processes, understanding what we can automate in Arthur, pretty flexible. Our automation is, as long as there is a trigger happening in your portfolio, most of the time we can base an automated event off it. And then again, mail merging the documents, just creating contracts and things like that. So the Tenant app. So we'll be looking at the benefits of your tenants using the app, a general overview of the Tenant app, how tenants can raise maintenance issues through the app, tracking rent, documentation, and general tenancy details on the Tenant app. So what I'll do is I'll share my screen now to the tenant side. So again, bear in mind, we do have a tenant web portal. So this is what we'll be looking at today. The functionality on the portal and the app is exactly the same. It's just formatted a little differently. Obviously, we have a larger screen on the computer, so things can go sort of in different places, but all the functionality is exactly the same. So the benefit of your tenants using the app is to keep everything in one continuous workflow, rather than having sort of external communications with tenants and then reflecting issues and things like that on Arthur for you guys to track and things like that for your own information, using Arthur as a database. If the tenant is using the app, we can keep everything in one workflow. So the tenant, we don't have to express to the tenant they owe us rent. We can automate that on Arthur. We don't have to email the tenant. That can all be done through Arthur. The tenant doesn't have to give us a ring and tell us there's a leak in the bathroom. Again, this can all be done through Arthur. Okay, so it really is going to probably save you guys a lot of phone calls, a lot of emails. If you do get your tenants to use the app, again, if their reason is that I don't have a smartphone or I'm not particularly good on smartphones, I don't want to download the app, whatever, then get them on let them know there is a web version so they can just log in on their computer, you know, once a week, track their rent and things like that if they need to, or if they need to raise an issue, they can log in. So now we'll just kind of go through an overview of the app or the tenant portal. So obviously this is the home page. All of your functionality on the left-hand side is the same as here. It's just kind of another place to find it. A general overview of your outstanding charges and overdue charges. And then what we'll do is we'll just go through these. So issues. So issues are when tenant obviously raises an issue through Arthur. This is what comes through to Arthur at the property manager side as a task. So these are kind of tasks for you guys that tenants are raising. As you can see, you can track all of your previous tasks. So whether they're in progress, whether they're completed, whether they've been cancelled, they will always remain in here for the tenant to track if they want to. And then again, obviously you guys will have it on your side. So this is an already in progress task. So as a tenant, I can click add and I can either upload a file to it. I can add an image, which will obviously just open my camera. And I can also add a message. Just change this. Okay. Just so I can continue. Payments. So obviously payments on the left-hand side will be tracking rent. So obviously on this one, it doesn't look like there is anything paid off. So either this tenant hasn't been paying their rent or I haven't been paying them off. But again, the tenant will see every time a charge is generated for them, they will be able to obviously see that. And then obviously once you guys pay it off or reconcile, again, they'll be able to see that as well. And again, what we can look at later is automating emails to let the tenant know their rent is due. We can send emails to say their rent is late. So a few days after the due date, we could also send automated emails, let them know that we've paid off the charge. And if they want to, they can log in and double check this. Files. So again, any documents that you've shared with the tenant. So obviously on the tenancy, the unit or the property that the tenant is residing in. Once you have, obviously you add a document to the document section, you are given the option of sharing. If you select tenants, they will show up in here. Again, same with certificates if you decide to share them, and the same with images. Okay. Then we have information. So again, this is general information on the property and unit. So if you guys are on your property manager side and you go to the property or the unit, there is a general information tab. So again, if you guys want to add anything in there for the tenant to see, make sure you do share it with them. Exactly the same with the access details. So any access details found at property level or unit level obviously has to be related to this tenancy. So the tenancy is in unit A, 100 Green Lane, property is 100 Green Lane. So if we have access details in either that property or unit, and we decide to share it with the tenant, then that will show up for them as well. And again, any inventory that we've added to the unit. So I've got here washing machine, then the tenant can see that as well if you guys decide to share that with them. Services, these will be things like billing better, none on this one. Unit utilities. So again, as you can see, I've added a utility in here and I've shared it with the tenant so they can see. And then again, they can see their readings if they want to, the previous readings, and then they can also add their own readings as well. So again, another really useful feature on the tenant portal. So again, another big benefit for getting the tenant to use the portal. Notices, again, any notices that you've served the tenant, so early sections 21s or things like that will appear here. Again, only if you decide to share it with the tenant. So obviously you may just want to serve the notice in Arthur just for your own records and not share it with the tenant, or you may actually want to literally serve the notice to the tenant through Arthur, at which point you would share it with the tenant and they'd be able to see it in here. Cool. So then we've got obviously just a breakdown, like I said earlier, of the rents. And again, all of this will be the same as our manageability on the left-hand side, exactly the same, just a different place for it. Then we can view our tenancy. So again, we can see the manager that's assigned to our unit, our tenancy reference. Again, if our manager has a mobile number in there, we can see that. Tenancy status, and then just like I say, general tenancy information, start dates and end dates, rent amounts and things like that. Then we can go to messages. So again, this will just be all of the messages that this tenant has sent through the tenancy from their app. Notification. So again, this tenant doesn't have any, but if we do set up automated events to notify tenants, notifying is basically an Arthur notification. So again, if you do have that automation and they're not using the app, they're not going to get anything. Again, managing settings. So again, switch account, that'll be if they have been invited to other tenancies, they can view those, they can change their account information. If they've been invited to a new tenancy, so for example, the way this works is the tenant is looking at their tenancy here. So each account would be a different tenancy. So if this tenant becomes a past tenant and you disable their access, and then let's say they get onto another tenancy, then you would need to re-invite them to their new tenancy so they can track those details. Then just some general information at the bottom. So if they want to report any issues or log out, they can. They can fill out their COVID profile and their vulnerability profile as well, which will go over to the property manager. But what we'll look at now is raising an issue through the app. So I'm being Luke in this scenario, and Luke has a leak in his bathroom, so he's going to raise an issue through the app. So Luke will obviously open up his app and click raise a new issue, and what Luke will get straight away is just basically telling him to make sure if he already has an issue for this, he needs to add any notes or post any messages or any photos onto the already active issue. So again, what we're trying to do is Arthur just trying to make sure that keep this as clean as possible. We don't want tenants to be raising hundreds of issues every day for trivial things. So we are just constantly warning them to make sure they're tracking things in the correct place. So the first thing Luke needs to do is select his task type. So we will be going through this a little bit later on the property manager side. Task type, custom task types are a professional and enterprise package feature. So basically we can create our own task types and we can choose whether the tenant can actually use that. So we can kind of customize this page for them. As you can see, I've got 3 fire alarms not stopping. So that's just me creating a few just to show people. And obviously I've made that available to tenants. So what we'll do is we will go to see if anything is relevant. So we'll just go miscellaneous there. So the tenant needs to write a little description, and then we've got these options here. So private, So obviously we're adding this. So when the tenant raises this, it will raise at tenancy level. So obviously other tenants on the tenancy will be able to see this task because it's obviously been raised against their tenancy. But if the tenant wants to raise it as a private issue, then it will only be viewable to Luke. Okay, so that's something you may get a question from a tenant in the future when they do start using the app. How come I can see this task, but my housemates can't? The reason will be because they've created it as a private task. Again, emergency. So for this particular case, it's a substantial leak, and I'm going to raise it as emergency. Again, that will go over to the property manager. So again, you guys can sort of manage that if you want. You can change it to a non-emergency if you think it is not as critical as the tenant does. Then we can upload our files. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to pause my screen share, and upload a nice picture of the leak. And pictures. Cool. Okay, great. So now I've obviously uploaded a picture of the leak. So again, super useful for the property manager. If the tenant does actually attach a photo, which in cases like this, you would imagine they will, then obviously that's going to be super useful for the property manager. And then again, if the property manager decides that they need to create a work order from that task, we can filter those images down to the contractor when they're obviously eventually invited to the work order. So I'm just going to name that leak and then review and submit. So there is a substantial leak in the bathroom. I'm going to make it non-private, in fact. Just for now. There's a leak in the bathroom. We've got one on there. It's not private, it's an emergency, and we've got our file on there, so we can submit the issue. Great. And now we can see it here. So there is a substantial leak in our bathroom. So now the tenant can obviously add things to this as they go. So again, the property manager may pick this up and say, okay, can you send us more pictures? And they can obviously directly message them through the task. And then obviously the tenant picks up their phone, goes on the web portal, and can upload the photos for the property manager. So now that the task is obviously created, what we need to do is we need to go over to the property manager side and manage it. So what we'll be going through there, let me just go on to the slideshow. So managing maintenance issues. So now what we'll do is we'll go over to the property manager side of things, and we will begin managing that task. So we'll look at an overview of tasks in Arthur in general. So the task index page, we'll just have a little talk about the filters in there, best way to use those. How to manage tasks created by tenants and team members. So obviously managing this task that we've just created. Task types, so those are obviously professional and enterprise only. We'll be looking at those, so how we can create them, how we can make them usable by tenants, and we can actually assign property managers to particular task types, so that, for example, when a particular task type is raised, it automatically assigns that particular property manager. Then we have subtasks, so these are basically checklists, so these go within the task. So for example, we may have a move out checklist attached to a task when a tenant leaves a unit, to make sure, to check all the inventory, to check it's clean and things like that. Again, that one's professional and enterprise only also. So if you're on the standard, you won't have that. Suggested solutions. So this is, again, is enterprise only. So again, a super useful tool, so that when a tenant does raise an issue through the app, a suggested solution can be given to the tenant before it even ever hits your desk. Okay. So by the way, guys, if you do have questions, pop them in the chat by all means, but I will be answering them at the end. Okay. Cool. So let's go back to Arthur now, onto our property manager side, and let's manage that. Okay. Right. Okay, cool. So obviously tasks come through to Arthur. Issues that tenants raise will come through to Arthur as a task. So as you can see, this is come through. This is the one we just created. But before I go into that and start managing it, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to have a sort of a quick talk about this page, and how we can kind of use it to, you know, find what we need as quick as possible.
So obviously we have these filters on the left-hand side. So we can filter by status, task type, task conditions. Obviously the due date, we can filter it by property, by assignee, and by tags. So if you do want to tag your tasks, again, by all means do that. And then you can filter it by task. You can also run reports by tags as well. So what you may want to do, probably what's an idea is for you guys, when you log into Arthur in the morning, you may want to come into your task page and filter it by your name. You may want to see what is due today. Okay, obviously I haven't got anything there. Or you may want to filter it by your name and see tenant raised issues only. Okay, so these are obviously issues that have been raised by tenants. And then if I tick emergency, then I can say, okay, what's been assigned to me, that is an emergency and raised by a tenant. And of course, we can also see if they're raised, well, we can also see by who they're raised by. So obviously this is raised by Max Milligan, who is a team member, so I can see that. So every task will have a task reference number. Obviously, as we saw before, the tenant will also receive this reference number. So again, if they do want to talk to you about it, maybe a few months down the line, they can quote the task reference number. You guys can come into your tasks and just put the reference number in there, find it nice and easy. Again, tasks will have the task types. Then we have the description here. Obviously the tenancy that it was raised under, the unit that the tenancy is in, the date it was created, who it was raised by, the status, and who it's been assigned to. So if you hover over that, it will actually tell you who it was, any due date that's been put on it. And again, we've got these little logos here. So this one's just showing that there is a work order attached to this one. So for examples like the scenario we've got here, often you will create a work order, which can be done directly from the task. So instead of kind of creating a whole new sort of record in Arthur, we can do it directly from the task and filter down the relevant information from the task. And then this one is just showing it has a attachment on it. And then this is for a subtask. So in this particular task, we have a subtask, which is basically, like I said, a checklist, and we can see there the checklist has been completed 100%. Okay, great. So what I'm going to do is unfilter that, clear them all, and we will look at the task that has been raised for us that we just raised. So what we want to do is we want to click into the task and we will give it a read. There's a substantial leak in our bathroom. Click on the image. Okay, that is pretty substantial. Great. Okay, cool. So as you can see, this one's been assigned to Andrew. That's because Andrew is the assigned unit manager. So obviously once this come into Arthur, we need to manage it. It's quite basic when the tenant raises it. There's not too much the tenant can do from their side, other than obviously give a description, let us know what's happening, attach any photos and things like that. Things like due dates and due times will need to be added by you guys, obviously, if you want to. Okay, and the way you can do this is just by going into edit task. Obviously, we'll say whoever this is assigned to, we want it to be completed by today, because I've seen that photo and it doesn't look good. And we'll say by the end of the day. And we can also reassign it if we want to. We can assign it to more than one person if we want to. Or we can just, like I say, just reassign it to someone else or leave it as it is. We can also change the task type if we feel like the tenant has raised it under the wrong task type. So again, when you guys are going through your task index page, you may want to filter it purely by task types. So again, if you guys do use that, it'll probably be an idea to make sure the tenants are raising under the correct task type. Again, is this an emergency? So what you'll probably see a lot from tenants is they will raise tasks as an emergency. Sometimes it may be not be such an emergency to you guys. So again, if you just want to come in and put no on that, so that removes it from, that will remove the emergency tag from it. So again, whoever does come into the task index page in your team, they'll obviously be able to see more accurate information. So the actual thing, when things are actually an emergency. So again, share with tenants. So do we want to share this task information with the tenants? They've raised it, so we probably do at this point. But again, we can create tasks at tenancy level. Doesn't necessarily mean we are communicating with the tenant through this, or the tenant even knows that task has been raised there. Again, we may just want to keep it there for our own records or for our own tracking purposes. And just to talk about this, it's not relevant in this at this point, but a scheduled task is basically a repeating task. So a task that will happen on a certain frequency until we specify it to stop. So save that, and that'll update all of those. As we can see, the document here is just going to be the images. Any work orders attached will be in here. So for this particular, what I'll do for this particular one, I won't go too deep into work orders, but I will show you how to create a work order directly from the task, which I'll do after this. So any work orders attached, there are none. Any reminders linked to this task, so I can add a reminder for the property owner, property manager, tenants on there. And again, any messages that have been posted through the task. So if Luke has messaged me through here, let's say I pick up this and I can say to Luke, because he raised it, I can do the other tenants as well. Hi, Luke. Please, can you attach more photos? I think. Okay, and then post a message. Cool. So now obviously that's going to go over to Luke. It's going to go on the message thread within the task. So we're going to be able to see that. We can track that again. If a year down the line something is being disputed, everything is in one continuous workflow. So rather than us having to check our emails, check our texts, check our phone calls, things like that, everything's in one continuous place, and we're going to be able to find it pretty quickly. Okay. So all we need to do is find the task, and then we can find all communication that's gone through the task, any notes that have been added to the task by anyone, and obviously the subtask template as well. So again, we can add notes to the task. Any property manager can. Okay, so every note has a timestamp and a name stamp as well, so you can see that. At the bottom, you have the activity. So again, any changes made to the task, any notes added, any images and things added will all be down there, again, with a name and a timestamp. And then what we'll do here is we'll import a subtask, just so I can show you guys what subtasks are and how to use them. So subtasks are, like I say, professional and enterprise features only. So if you guys are on standard, you will need to upgrade for this feature. Obviously, that's not the only feature. You obviously get all the other features as well if you do upgrade. So what we'll do is we will import a subtask template. Now, obviously, I've already got loads on here from training and things like that, creating them. But what I'll do for you guys is I'll create a new subtask template. So a new template here, and we'll name it. Now, for this particular one, let's say we're going to create a checklist for the assignee. So we'll say maintenance checklist, for example, and then we'll say visit unit. Great work order necessary by contractor, contact property owner. So these will be our items on the checklist, basically. So we can move these around if we want to. So if we want to kind of move the order around, we can also bin them on the right-hand side. And obviously, if I want to add more items, I can. I can add them retrospectively as well if I need to. So what we'll do now is we'll save this. And then as you can see, it will save it to our templates, and then I'll import this template. So now you have your checklist here. So obviously property managers, when they log in and they pick this task up, so let's say, for example, I'm assigned to this, I'll log into Arthur, I'll go to my tasks, I'll filter it by my name, what's due today, and this task will come up. I'll open the task and I'll be able to see this checklist. So what I can do is I can check these off as I go. Obviously, like I say, I can move these around, or I can just add another item if I want to by typing it in there and add item, or I can import another subtask template. But what you see here is as they're ticked, again, everything has a name and date stamp and time stamp when it's checked. And again, unchecked has a name and a time stamp also. So once you've ticked all of these on the left, then you can presume that your task is complete, and then you will update it. So once obviously the task has been picked up, what you guys want to do is update your statuses. Now, again, it's important to do this if you guys are basing automation off the status. So for example, what you may want to do is you may want to set a
automated event up to trigger off when a task is set to live, potentially maybe to go to all of the property managers. Hi, this task has been set to live and is in progress, something like that, or potentially the tenant automated event. As soon as the task is set to live, the tenant can receive an email letting them know that it's been picked up and has been it is in progress. So again, if you are obviously basing automation off of the statuses, then make sure you are accurately updating them. So I'm setting this to live. Cool. So now this is obviously in progress. Then obviously I go in and I'll tick everything off, add any notes I need to, check the photo. I will have visited the unit, and then obviously at this point, in my opinion, I need to create a work order from it. Okay. So again, I'm not going to delve too deep into this, but I'm just going to show you it just to show you again why it's important that we add the work order at this level, just so everything again is kept in one continuous workflow. So literally just add work order in the top right. So let's say obviously I've been assigned this. I've visited the unit and I agree. I think a work order needs to be added to this, and we need to get a contractor involved. So we can add a work order. Or obviously the description will filter down. Okay. Obviously we need to put in a title. This will filter down, but this will go to the contractor. So make sure obviously you change it if it needs to be changed, because in this particular scenario, this is the tenant's description. Okay, and then I just want to show you this little ticky box here. So again, copy documents and images from related tasks. So obviously we're creating this from the related task. The task is related to the tenancy, which is obviously related to the unit where the leak is. So we can copy the document straight down to the work order for the contractor. So when they're invited, they can have a look at the work order, and obviously the same photos that the tenant has uploaded has gone to the contractor. And also, if we tick that, they'll actually go to the contractor. Again, if we tick this and leave this unticked, we would purely be copying them down for our own records rather than actually sharing them with the contractor. Okay. Cool. So once obviously that is all done, we can set that to completed, or obviously if it's not going to be complete, we can cancel it. But again, if you guys do want to base automation off of the statuses of the tasks, then again, make sure you do update them as accurately as possible for your for them to go out correctly. Cool. So now what we'll look at is task types and suggested solutions. Okay. So task types, again, professional enterprise only. So if you are on standard, you will not have this feature. You'll need to upgrade for it. So if you do want it, just take a look at it, and I'll be explaining it now. And obviously suggested solutions is enterprise only, a super useful tool. So again, if you do want that feature, take a look at what I'm about to show you, and then upgrade if you want it. So to go to our task types, if we want to create custom task types or just manage our task types, we need to go to preferences. So we go to our company name in the top left, we go to preferences, and then we go to tasks. Then we have our general, but we want to go to task types. Cool. And then we have all of our task types in Arthur. Okay. Now I can add my own task type, or I can manage a current task type. So let's say, for example, bathroom issue is here. Edit task type, and I can just make any changes to it if I want. If I want to give it a nice photo, so it's bathroom issue, give it that bath in a nice color. I can add a subtask template to it, so that whenever this is raised, this particular issue is raised by a tenant or a property manager, it will always include this particular subtask. Okay. I can also assign managers to task types. So again, when a tenant or a property manager creates a task under a particular task type, it will automatically assign to a particular person that we specify. Okay, so the way this is going to work is, and I've obviously made this available to tenants. If I untick that, then tenants won't see it on their end. Okay, so obviously I want to make this one available to tenants. So the way this is working is we have a task type called bathroom issue. Whenever a tenant raises the task, or a property manager with this task type, is going to automatically have this subtask assigned to it, and it's automatically going to be assigned to these 3 property managers every single time.
Again, we can manage this if we need to. So again, we can go into the task and remove the subtask template if we want to. And then obviously we can remove assignees and add assignees once we've done that. So it is all fully manageable retrospectively as well. Cool. So what I'll do now is I'll just quickly add one. So add a task type. So again, we can just say, if it's a common one, so that's probably why I've got the fire alarm so much. So I'll use that. So fire alarm is not stopping. So let's say we have a common task in one or a few of our properties that we constantly have tenants emailing us, phoning us up about, and it's a really simple solution. And we have to just say it 10 times a day, answer the phone call, say the same thing. So what we can do to that is add a suggested solution. So what I'll do for this one, in this particular scenario, I have several properties with the same fire alarm, but the tenants just don't know how to turn it off. When it goes off, they don't know how to turn it off. So I'm going to create a task type for the fire alarm not stopping. So when they do raise an issue on the app, they can see that straight away and they'll know that's what it's for. Obviously, give it a nice icon and color. And again, if I want to create a subtask template on this, I can. So for example, if I wanted to, in this particular scenario, it's probably not going to be relevant. But again, what I can do is make sure it's assigned to just the one person whenever they raise it. Okay. And I want to make it available to tenants. So it does show on the app when they go to raise a task as one of the available task types. Okay. So now I'm going to save this task type. Okay. And because I'm on the enterprise package, it's going to prompt me to add a suggested solution to it. Okay. So again, bear in mind, this is an enterprise only feature. So what I'm going to do is create a new solution. Okay. And what this will do now, I'll just put the solution in, press red button twice, hold down blue button, 10 seconds, and stop. So now, before this even gets to your desk, as soon as the tenant attempts to raise an issue under this task type, fire alarm not stopping, this solution is going to be fired off to them. Okay, so before this even gets to your desk, this simple solution is going to be fired off to them. So and they can obviously state whether it's worked or not. So that this task potentially doesn't even need to be raised. We actually don't need to get involved in this. So again, that could save you a bundle of time again if you do sort of see the same issues over and over again from your tenants. Okay. So I'll save that. So again, that is an enterprise only feature. If you guys are interested in any of the features that I've gone through so far, and you are interested in upgrading to get those features, do drop me an email at the end or jump into our live chat and we can discuss that, how that can be done. Okay, cool. So we will move on to the next slide and we will be going through automating your processes. So automating your processes. So the benefits of automation. So basically why we should be setting up our automation, why we should be utilizing it. Identifying your processes. So basically identifying the way your business works, at which point you want emails and things to be firing off, and also understanding what is possible in Arthur. Our automation is super flexible as long as there is a trigger in your portfolio in Arthur, we can usually base automation off it. Okay. Obviously system automation. So these are automations we already have in the system. We have quite a lot. And then we'll also be looking at custom automation. So if there isn't one in the system already, we will create custom automations. Okay. Cool. So the benefit of using automation is basically, as it says on the tin, it is going to automate everything. So let's say, for example, the processes in my my portfolio, the way my company works is whenever a tenant moves out of a unit, I need to email my maintenance team to get them to go to the unit and clean it. Okay. Now, obviously, that would be a manual job if we're not automating it. That means we have to track when tenancies are ending, make sure we obviously on top of that. And then when they do end, we need to send off an email to the maintenance team for each separate unit. Now, obviously, if we have that automated, that is going to save us a bundle of time. So, for example, on this particular example, the tenancy is ending. So the action in our portfolio, sorry, the trigger in our portfolio is tenancy has ended. Okay, so obviously that will be based off of the tenancy end date or the tenancy status. Okay, so again, I'll create this one under tenancy status set to pass. So again, if we are creating automation based off of statuses and things like that, so obviously updating statuses to obviously tenancy statuses from prospective to approved to current to past. If you are basing automation off of that, then please do be sure that you're updating updating as soon as possible. Okay, just to mention again, any questions I will go through at the end. So if you do just want me to go over anything else quickly again, I will do that at the end. But I don't want to run out of time. I just want to make sure we do get through all of this. So what I'm going to do is I'm adding an automated event to the trigger tenancy status set to pass. So whenever a tenancy status is set to pass in Arthur, this is going to trigger off this action. So I'm going to say email to maintenance team, tenant has moved out. Okay. Cool. So leave it active and we'll run. Automatically set this action to checked when listed. So again, when we at the bottom of the work order, you would have seen the automation, which was share things with the contractor, hide things from the contractor. Basically, it will leave it checked automatically if you tick that. You can add a task. So for example, again, whenever a tenancy status is set to pass, we can make sure a task is raised every time, along with an email as well if we want to. So please perform move out checks. And then again, we can have our subtask template. So we'll put in our move out checks one. And then we can obviously select our task type. Again, if you guys do have professional or enterprise, you guys can use create your own task types for this. So you probably create a move out check one and we can assign it to someone. So again, this will probably be the maintenance team. Then we want to send an email to them. So at the moment, they're going to have a task raised for them with a subtask template on it to perform the move out checks. And also, so what we want to do, and also we want an email to go out to them. So we can go to, obviously select the maintenance team. You may have them in Arthur as sort of one login, or you can sort of just select all of the guys who are part of the maintenance team as your recipients, whoever it is. Okay, and then we can say tenant has moved out, and then we can say tenant has moved out of, right click in the text area, type in unit, find your variable. So again, based on whatever tenancy has ended, it'll obviously pull through the correct information of the unit that the tenancy was on. Moved out of there on, and then we can add tenancy end date. Tenancy end. A task has been raised in Arthur. Please perform move out checks. So the way this is working, as soon as a tenancy status is set to pass, this will trigger off this action. So a task will be created for John Smith with the subtask template, and an email will go out to these recipients, obviously with that subject and this information. So those are our obviously system automations. There's quite a lot in there. We've covered most bases, we think, but if we haven't, we have our custom trigger option, which is obviously what makes this so flexible. So if there isn't something, like I say, if there isn't something we can find, we can create a custom trigger. Okay. So for this one, I'm going to create a custom trigger for a tenancy to, so I'm going to create a custom trigger. So I want an email to go out to the maintenance team 5 days before the tenancy is ended. Okay. So obviously in Arthur, there's kind of nothing there. So there's no 5 days before tenancy ended. So what we need to do is create a custom trigger. Okay. So we need to add custom trigger in the top right, and tenancy for this particular one. So we need to select our trigger type. So what we're basing this off is we want this to go out 3 days before the tenancy starts. So I know that is going to be based on a tenancy start date. So I know that we need to go to tenancies here. Okay, we're going to be using a timed event because our event is a certain amount of time before or after the actual event takes place. Okay, but what I will do is I'll just go through what these mean. So tenants are created. So if I do that, if I select that one, this will trigger off this action whenever a tenancy is created. Tenancy updated, obviously whenever a tenancy is updated, so edited basically, or had something added to it. Updated or created, so either of the first two, it will run based off of those. Timed, so obviously timed event, again, it is actually a period of time before or after the actual events happened. And then manually triggered is there is no event in Arthur. We need to go in and manually click it for it to go off. So for this one, we need to add a timed event, okay? And we'll name it, so 3 days before tenancy start date. So that is the trigger. As soon as we get to 3 days before the tenancy start date, that's going to trigger it. And now we need to add conditions. So this is basically, so if I save this now, this will go, well, this actually won't work. We need to add a condition for this one because it's a timed event. So for a timed event, we really need it to be move-in date, move-out date, tenancy end, or tenancy start. It needs to be based on a date, okay? So for this particular one, it's tenancy start. And we will say plus 3 days. That represents tenancy starts in 3 days' time. So that's when that will trigger off. We also have minus will also be that'll be 3 days after the tenancy starts, okay? But we just want to do plus. So again, you can add more than one condition. So I could just do this, for example, make sure this only goes out for my student tenancies, okay? So only student tenancies are going to get this email 3 days before the tenancy start. So what I'm going to do is save a trigger, and then exactly the same as before, apply a process, add a task if I want to, and then again, and now this trigger will always go off 3 days before a tenancy start date. Okay. So now we will go through, I think, the last of the agenda. Mail merging documents. So the benefits of mail merging documents, common mail merge documents. So obviously ASTs, notices, invoices, things like that. We'll be doing an AST, probably the most common one. How to mail merge the documents. So again, we'll be doing that for you. We'll be having a look at that. Troubleshooting mail merge documents. So again, if the information is wrong or it isn't there, we'll have a look at where we can get that from in Arthur. And adding digital signatures to mail merge documents, okay? By the way, just so you know, we do offer this as a service at Arthur. So if you guys do have a load of documents that you need to mail merge, if you want us to do that for you, let us know and we can sort that out. And same with your automated processes, we will build that for you at a cost. So again, if that's something you're interested in, we'll set up, the way it'll work is we'll set up a call with you guys. We'll discuss your processes. If you need help identifying your processes or knowing what's possible on Arthur, we'll set up a call, we'll discuss that, and then we can build that for you. Same with your mail merge documents. If you give us your documents, we will do that for you. So again, if you are interested in any of that, jump in the live chat or drop me an email at the end of this webinar. Cool, and then we'll also be looking at adding signatures, digital signatures to the mail merge document. So let's go back to Arthur and let's create a mail merge document. Okay, great. So documents, mail merge templates. This is where all your mail merge templates reside. So for example, what you may have is several documents that you send for mail merge, you send off to your tenants when they move in, for example. So they'll always reside in here, okay? We have a template here, okay, already with the variables on. So if you guys want to use that, then just click on that and you can download it or import it into your account. So now I'm going to look at the actual document. So let's go to share my screen for the document. There it is. Okay, great. Okay, so this is our document. As you can see, this one's already got variables on it. So the way it works is when we pull these variables on, when I attach this to a tenancy, it's obviously going to pull through the relevant the details from the tenancy. So we have variable information on our contract that will change tenancy to tenancy. So the benefit of this is rather than us sitting there and typing out all of the variable data, so the tenant name, the rent amount, the rent frequency, we've already told Arthur that information, so we can actually attach it to the tenancy and get that information pulled through. Okay, so again, one of the biggest benefits of this is big time saver. Okay, and again, making sure all the data is correct. So if you guys use the applicant form, for example, and you have tenant details on here, we know the tenant puts their information if they use the form, so the information is coming from them. But yeah, it's obviously based on what we put in Arthur. So the way it works is we need to take these variables from Arthur and put them where we expect them to go. So what you guys will probably have is you'll have your drafts, and they'll have actually real true information on them, so from a previous contract. So what you guys need to do is you need to go to Arthur once you obviously have your document up. Go to Documents, Mail Merge Templates, and go to Tenancy View Variables. Okay, so just here. And now we have all of our variables, okay? So there are a lot. I wouldn't expect anyone to kind of know exactly what variable they need to use off the bat. So just search here if there is anything you want. So tenancy, and then obviously it'll just bring through. And if I want tenancy start, then obviously that'll be the tenancy start date. It gives you a little example on the right based on data that you have in your Arthur. So for example, so I can see here, I have a commercial company here with the name Sherlock Holmes, things like that, tenancy contract types, dates and things like that. So there are examples on the right-hand side. So that can kind of help you understand where this information is pulling from. So we've got system, this will be tenant informations, and here are signature fields. I need my date on, so I'm going to copy this date. I'm going to go back to my document, and I'm going to paste this variable where I want the date to go, like that, okay? Then also I need to add some signature fields on. So go back there, and we go to digital signature, and here we have our signature fields, okay? So I'm going to take the signature field, and I am going to put it where I want the signature to go on this document. So if I scroll down right to the bottom, and here we have our signatures. This is where we want our signatures. So we have signable signature field 1 and signable signature field 1 there as well. What we need to do is just make sure they are different, so 1 and 2, and then obviously going up depending on how many people need to actually sign this. Okay, so make sure signer 1 and signer 2. The way it works in signable is once we send this off, signable will distribute this to the recipients and signers in the order that we specify. So signable signature field signer 1 will get the document first, and signer 2 will not even have the document sent to them until signer 1 has sent. Okay, it's probably more common for property managers and landlords to sign second, but again, totally up to you guys and how you guys work. And then I can see on this I need to put a date field in, so I'll quickly go back to Arthur and go signable date, signer 1, take that. And then I'll put that there. So again, because this one is for signer 2, I just need to change that to 2. And obviously you guys can add as many as you want, just make sure they go up and make sure the numbers are different. So now I have the signature fields. I'm going to save this. Go and share my Arthur. I'll save this. And now I need to upload it to Arthur so we can use it. So to upload it to Arthur, we need to go to our mail merge template. So documents, mail merge templates, upload new template. Again, I will just pause my screen share there, just so you guys can't see my files. Choose my file. So yeah, as you can see, name your template, stick your template in there, obviously with the variables on, and leave the model as tenancy because that's where we'll be sending this from. Upload, and now that will always be in our mail merge template, so we can go to our tenancy. We've got Luke Mercer here again. So we go into the tenancy. Now we want to send this document off for digital signature. Okay, so we go to documents on the left hand side, mail merge, and we'll name our document. So again, Luke AST, for example. Select your contract type, sorry, document type, and then obviously select your template. So this is the one we just done, and continue. Cool. I've got this custom fields here, but ignore these. It's because I've got them on my account rather than the document. Okay, great. So this point is asking you to share the file. At this point, I wouldn't share it because we haven't previewed it yet. First, we want to make sure that all of the details are correct. So we want to make sure all the data has pulled through correctly. So what you guys will be doing if you do want to create a digital signature is leaving that ticked. But if you want to untick that and just download it as a Word document, maybe get it signed in person, you can, or a PDF again as well, you can do that. But what we'll do is create a digital signature. So we go create document. And as you can see, it has pulled through the date, the unit owner, the tenant's names, the rent amount, the rent frequency, the unit address, the contract dates, the term, the deposit amount, things like that. Okay. And then at the bottom, we have our signature fields. Okay. So obviously we have the signature field and the date. So what we need to do is we need to specify the signers. So obviously in this case, we made the tenant signer one. So we drop this down, select the tenant that we want to sign. Obviously they need an email address attached, otherwise there's nowhere for it to go. And then obviously we'll select, for example, the property owner for that. So once you're happy with the document, it's pulled through all the correct data and you've selected your signers. So the way this is going to work, like I say, is once we send this signable, we'll distribute this to Luke. And then once Luke obviously opens it up and signs, it will be sent to Dan. So we go next. And at the minute, it's asking us if we want to attach any documents to this envelope. So the way signable works is one envelope is one credit. So you can attach as many documents as you want to sign at this point. And that'll obviously only cost you one credit. But I'll skip and continue that. And you can add a little message to the email that's sent. So obviously the emails do come from Signable. Because they distribute the document. So if you want to add a little message, just personalize it, something like, please sign from Max or whatever. And then next. Cool. And then it's just giving you a little breakdown of what you're actually going for here. So obviously the recipients who they're sending to, your available credits, how many envelopes you're actually using, and how many credits you're using. So now once I confirm and send that, that is going to then send that off to the recipients. Okay, now we'll have a look quickly at troubleshooting. So if there is anything on that document that has pulled through that is incorrect, okay, now that means you're either using the incorrect variable, which obviously at that point you need to open your document, go back to mail merge templates, variables, and have a look at the variables and get the right one. Or the information is just incorrect in Arthur. So for example, things like rent amounts and rent frequency, that's all found down here, okay? Things like deposits, go to more, register deposits. And obviously you saw 720 on there, that's where that's coming from. Okay, so you can add in any more information if you want there, or just change the information there. If there is no information there, so for example, if we have a document with a variable for a deposit charge on it, and there is no deposit charge on the tenancy, it will just simply show up as blank. So if you do see that again, make sure you come into Arthur and record that information. Okay. Cool. So now what I'll do is I will just quickly go through any questions that you have. Anybody that did miss anything, this recording will become available on YouTube and our website. So don't worry about that. Okay, great. So I've got a few questions here that I'm going to go through. Okay, so somebody's speaking about notifications in the app. So again, that will be automating that. So you can automate that. You need to set that up as a notification rather than sending a message. That'll be emailed. Okay, so definitely something to think about regarding automation. Somebody said their signal kept dropping out. So yes, there will be a recording of this afterwards, after the webinar. Can you automate work orders for contractors? So in the example I was talking about, the task, my maintenance team was within my team. So these are tasks. Obviously, work orders are for external contractors, but the maintenance team are my team members. I add them to Arthur so that they can manage tasks. And can you automate work orders for contractors? That's quite broad, but the answer is yes, we can automate work orders, but we would need to obviously discuss what exactly you want. Okay, somebody had to leave. Again, there is a recording. Okay, great. I'm going to go to the Q&A. When notes are added, are they seen by the tenants? No, only if tenants can't see the notes on there. So that's that. Are you suggesting a task is set to complete when the work order is raised? So no, you can automate that if you want to, but no, you'll need to update the statuses manually and track them manually. But again, in that scenario, the task was for me to invite a contractor. So I would have said, yes, that task was complete because I created the work order. Can we please go back? So I won't go back again because of, obviously we have a recording. Are you sure the minus and plus days were correct? We say -3 set to the condition. If you are unsure, literally where you add that in just above it, it is telling you what minus means and what plus means. So if you're not sure, literally just above the conditions, it is specifying plus is representing in 3 days, minus is representing, plus is representing in 3 days, minus is representing 3 days ago. Cool, I think that should be that. Okay, guys, so like I say, if you guys do have any questions regarding anything we went through today, please jump on the live chat or drop me an email, or again, I'm sure you have other support links through Arthur, so do drop any of us an email if you need to. If you guys are interested in upgrading and getting at any of those particular features that we spoke about, or if you just want to have a chat about it, then again, do drop me an email or jump into the live chat, or again, speak to anyone at Arthur about it if you've got their email. Okay. Okay, somebody's asked, can you do a batch mail merge? No, you can't. So you have to do mail merge per tenancy. If not, will this be implemented soon? It's not something I've heard of. The problem is with this is we do want to keep mail, obviously you guys, when you mail merge, we do want it to be kind of, obviously the act of mail merging is automating the data onto the document, but we kind of want you to do it one by one manually because these are contracts that we're sending out. So, you know, we could be causing massive problems. If you're batch sending out 1,000 contracts, then you're probably not reviewing 1,000 contracts. So, you know, that could cause problems. It might be something we think about in the future, but at the moment it will be per tenancy. And thank you, you're welcome. Okay, guys, well, thanks for coming today. I do hope that was informative for you. Like I say, the recording will be on our website and YouTube very shortly after this. And do drop me an email or jump on the live chat if you need anything else. Thank you, guys. Thank you, guys. Appreciate that. Cheers.